Hi again. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Astrolux FT03 flashlight. Now this is a flashlight intended to have a long throw, specifically to be used outdoors in dark areas where there's a lot of open space. And it really is great for that. It has a very intense hotspot and can throw a very long distance. Now, this is a well-made flashlight. I am impressed with the construction of it. It has the anodized black aluminum. It has some heat sink, but not a lot of fins for heat dissipation. I have found you don't need much heat dissipation with the light due to its fairly large size. It doesn't really heat up that much, and it does have things like thermal ramp down and stuff like that, but it's not really needed. It doesn't really kick in even after several minutes of using it on turbo. Now this is a light that will take a number of different battery formats. It's really designed to be used for 26650 batteries, which are fairly large cells, but it'll also run on 18650s and 21700s. Now you replace the batteries by removing the tail cap, and I'm currently using 18650s in it, Samsung 30Qs, and I do that with its included holder. It has good threads, O-rings. You can see it has double springs on the tail and the head. You can remove the head. Normally you wouldn't change the battery this way, but you could. You can see it's got double springs there too. So, let's just go into a little bit of how this light works. What are the benefits of it? The pros, the cons. I'll show some night shots of it in a little bit. The threads came lubricated. They're I think I'll re-lubricate them a little bit. I find that lubrication is there's never a lot applied to the lights that I order, so they usually can benefit from some cleaning and re-lubrication. So you can see the reason why this is such a powerful thrower is because it has a very large reflector. LED is well centered. It puts out around 2600 lumens, I believe is the claim. Something close to that. It is over 2000 lumens even on a 18650. It will benefit from the higher drain 26650s you can get, or 21700s, but it still operates very well on 18650s. Just to compare it in size to something like the Astrolux C8, which is more of a compact thrower. You can see the Astrolux C8 here. It's an 18650 light. Has pretty good throw. It got about 100,000 lux for its hotspot. This thing has about 200,000. And this is twice as bright in terms of output as this one, or close to it. But you can see it's fairly large. It's not really pocketable except in, say, a large coat pocket. It does come with lanyard, things like that. By the way, here's the box it comes in. If you're planning on giving it as a gift, it does come in a very nice box. It has very good padding in it. It's well protected in there. It comes with some accessories, some spare O-rings, a basic lanyard, and a user manual. And I'll go into a little bit of the user interface a little bit later. The switch has a light here to show you it only lights up when the light is off. It is customizable it uses a Narcel operating system, so it is customizable whether you can have this light on or off. And there's a lot of different functionality you can program into this light. I find though that just the basic The way it comes out of the factory is probably the way you want to use it, with one exception. I like to use it a little bit differently, so I will show you that a little bit later, the way I like to use it. It has a USB Type-C rechargeable port here. So you can charge the battery externally, of course, but if you just want to charge internally, you can use that USB port. There's pros and cons to using the rechargeable built-in recharging. It does mean that this is not fully water submersible. It is waterproof up to everything except throwing it in a lake. So it is pretty good. It has a tight fit here. It protects the port, O-rings and everything else, of course, but it does mean that you give up a little bit of waterproofness by having the convenience of built-in recharging. I don't like built-in recharging on small lights because it takes up some room that I'd rather be spent on making the light small. But this light is already fairly large, and so adding the USB built-in recharging doesn't really add much to the weight or bulk or size of the light. It's going to have to be big anyway just to support that large head with the large reflector. Okay, so let's get into the very basics of the user interface. Click to turn on, and you can see it turns on in a moonlight mode. It does have mode memory, so it'll turn on in whatever mode you last used. You just press and hold the switch to ramp up, and that becomes the top of the ramp, which is about half power. If you want turbo, double click, and it goes into turbo. And it'll stay in turbo there. So you turn off, turn back on, and it'll turn on into whatever the regular ramp mode that you last used. So let's just ramp down to, I don't know, around 25% here. If I shut it off, turn it back on, it's in that same 25% area. Ramp is fairly intuitive. You basically press and hold and it'll ramp up or down. If you want to change direction, you can release and hold it again quite shortly. If you pause for a few seconds and then start the ramp again, it'll do it in whatever direction you were using last. Now, basically it is double click to turn on with turbo, or double click from on into turbo. Triple click is to blink out the battery voltage. Oh, I did that one wrong. Triple click. There. Blink out the battery voltage, and in this case it's blinking out 4. Oh no, it's blinking out 3 and a bunch of them. So it's 1, 2, 3 volts, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 3.9 volts. Another double click will blink out temperature. I wouldn't worry about that. It's not too important. 4 clicks. Now it is in a lockout. So it doesn't matter. I can press, do whatever I want. It's not going to come on unless I do another 4 clicks. And that unlocks the... That's called a electronic lockout. The other way to lock out the light is just to very briefly give it just a slight turn. And that kills the power of the light. I prefer the mechanical lockout myself. It's because it has anodized threads, it will mechanically lock out. I actually prefer that way to lock out a light, just because there's no way it can come on then, there's no power. Just tighten again and the light will come back on. So that's how you lock out the light. Now 5 clicks, I'm just going to show you this one here. This sticks it in it gives a bunch of blinks to say, yeah, I know what you did. Now it is in what's called a momentary mode. And that means whenever you press the switch, it turns on in turbo. And you can press the switch. It only is on while you press the switch. And I like this because, okay, the way I like to use a light that is a thrower like this is I want to use it full power all the time because I want to throw as far as I can. And I generally am, if I'm out at night, I'm generally carrying a everyday carry light, which is a smaller, floodier light for just seeing close up. When I want to see in the distance, I want it on full power. So this is a handy way of, if you just want to see briefly something in the distance, press and hold the button in momentary mode, and you've instantly got a spotlight off into the distance. Now the way you kill momentary mode, because you can't do 5 clicks. If I did 5 clicks, I'm just, you know, momentary on for 5 clicks. So you have to kill the power, and then just do that brief little turn there, turn it back on, and now it's back into ramping mode. So as I said, the other way I like to use this light, well, really the only way I like to use this light, is to have it always on turbo. And as I mentioned, the programming interface in this light is fairly complex. I would not recommend most people play around with the programming mode. The first time I tried programming a Narsil light, I messed it up the first few times. There's a reset that you can do on it to keep clear. But for most people, they probably will just want to use it in the ramping mode, double click for turbo, or 5 clicks for momentary, and always go to turbo. But for me, I'm going to program this light to be only a single mode, so that when I click to turn it turns on in full power, and that's the only mode I have. So I won't have any of the ramping, I won't have lower modes, I won't have specialty modes like strobes and things like that. So let's look at the manual here. And basically what I want to do, I don't know if this is showing very well. If not, I'll throw up a separate area of it. But basically I want to turn it into use the mode sets of this light and set it to use only a single mode, which is mode group 1. So basically I'm going to enter configuration mode, and I do that by holding the power switch on for like 8 seconds. Then it'll start the configuration. It'll step through a bunch of the configurations. If I'm in ramping, it'll start here. I'm going to then, the very first configuration setting I'm going to change is I'm going to put it into mode sets. And then I'm going to use a single mode group, which is mode group 1. And that is the mode group that is 100% all the time. Okay, so let's just do it. That's the easiest way to show you. So the easiest thing to do is to press and hold this switch for 8 seconds. And then it's going to blink, and I'm going to then be in a configuration mode, and I'm going to press once to put it into mode sets. And then, there we go. So I'm pressing once, and that's enabling mode sets. And then on the second one, I'm pressing once again, and that puts it into mode group 1, which is full power. It's only a single mode and full power all the time. And then it steps through a bunch of other configuration settings. I find the easiest thing to do is just let it beep out the remainder of those configuration settings, and then once it's done, I think it does 4 flashes, and then it remembers the configuration. So let's see what that does when it's done. Okay, there we go. It did the 4 flashes. Now it should be programmed. So if I did everything right, a single click, and I did not. Okay. Oh, there we go. I did do something right. Okay. All right, so now it's in mode sets. A single click turns it on into moonlight. I'm going to remove the moonlight now because I don't want that. But basically a single click turns it on moonlight, and then it jumps to full power. So I can just kind of click and hold to jump it to full power now. That's not really what I want. Yeah, I don't want a moonlight. So let's go back to the configuration settings and figure out how to turn off moonlight. So I'm going to click and hold. Then I'm going to go down to moon mode and disable it, which is configuration number 3. And then I'll press once. So under here, moon mode, I'm going to disable it. So I'll wait till it blinks 3 times to tell me that it's in configuration setting number 3. and then I'll press once to disable moon mode. So let's try that. Now I'm already in mode set, so I don't think I have to hold it down quite as long. There we go. Now I'm in configuration. That's configuration 1. That's 2. And I wanted number 3, and then I'll press once. Okay, now I click once, and that should disable moon mode. I'll let it blink out the remainder of those configurations. As you can see, the programming interface, once you get to know it, it's not too bad, but you need the manual. I mean, you cannot remember this stuff. There are a ton of options you can do. On some of the smaller Narsil operated lights, I like to turn off the thermal protection or set the thermal protection to a much higher value, because I find I'm able to take a little bit of heat in the hands. I don't mind it. And I find the lights are more useful for the small lights. Otherwise, they ramp down very quickly from thermal. But as I said, with this light, because it's so large, thermal isn't an issue. So now let's see what happens. Aha! Got it. So now it's just a single click on, off, and I now have my light the way I want it, which is full power all the time. Who doesn't want full power all the time? So that's exactly the way I like to run a light. As I said, with throwers, I want to see a long distance all the time. I don't want to mess around with the dimmer modes. So it's nice that the Narsil interface here, which is great. I mean, the ramping interface is great for smaller lights, EDC lights. But for the throwers, I don't really have a lot of use for lower modes on them. Not everybody's like that. If you're only carrying one light, this still is usable as a light with a ramping interface, because you don't want to have such an intense hotspot that close to you. So it is useful to, if you're only carrying this as a single light, to have a lower amount. All right, let me just compare this light to the Astrolux C8. I'll show some night shots with this. But as you can see, this is the Astrolux over here. I'll do that. And this is the, let me put them at the same level. This is the FT03, the Astrolux FT03, and this is the Astrolux C8. And you can see the FT03, it's hard to see in the video, but it is significantly brighter. It is, well, let's zoom out a little bit. They're both at about the same level. You can see the C8 now pulling back. It's actually quite a bit dimmer. Now the Astrolux C8 is a very bright light. It steps down, unfortunately. Let me just boost it back up again. It is a very bright light, but the FT03 really blows it away. And it really is noticeable when you're using the FT03 in a dark area on a moonless night in a long distance. Say you're near water or in an open field or something like that, or you're walking your dog, it's ran off, you want to see where it's gone. It really has an amazingly intense hotspot for seeing far away. Okay, night shot time. You can see the beam here is very intense. It throws a long distance. Now the camera's not picking up how intense it is at distance, but you can see out to about 300 meters quite well. That's about where it is here. It's not showing up, but trust me, you can see pretty well. It's like a good strong moonlight on the trees out here, which is about 75, 100 meters or so. You can see it shows up quite well. This would be the maximum ramp. You double click, you go to full ramp here. Again, I like using full ramp or full turbo most of the time, so that's how I'm going to be using this light. Here it is compared to the Astrolux C8, which is another very nice thrower, but it's much smaller. And you can see it's about twice as bright, and out to the 300 meter level, it definitely is showing that it outthrows the C8 by quite a bit. C8 is a great light, but the FT03 definitely outshines it. Now, here we're going through some paths in a forest. I didn't realize the traffic noise is so loud. It sounds like this peaceful forest is in the middle of a freeway. But it's not. Here you can see it's great for illuminating paths if the path is straight and narrow, because the hotspot can illuminate all the way down the path while the spill shows up the edge of the trees. And because the spill isn't very bright, it's still usable, but it's not so bright to destroy your night vision. So you can throw this light all the way down the path, see off into the distance a long way without destroying your night vision up close. So I really like it for that. Again, I'm just sort of showing the ramp here, ramp up, ramp down, double click for turbo, you know, the usual. All right, pros and cons of this light. Honestly, this is really nice light. It has, well, you name the pros. I think it's a very good thrower, has a large reflector. This one comes in 3 different tints, from a 5000K up to 6500K. So they're all from neutral to cool white. It's a nice feel, like it's a 2650 light, so it's got a fairly good feel to it. Like it's a large light, but because of the girth to the tube here, you have a good grip in your hand. The interface is excellent, especially if you like all the options. I only really care about a simple interface, so the single mode is good for me the way I programmed it. But the quality construction, I mean, it's a really nice light. As far as cons go, I would say, well, it is a large light, so it's not something you can pocket carry. It's not really a con of this light. You can't have a light of this throw to be very small. So, you know, I can't really hold that against it. But for somebody looking for a smaller light, they might go with something like a C8. It's going to have less throw, but still pretty good throw. Downside, and again as a plus, is the integrated charging, USB Type-C integrated charging. It's great because you don't need a separate charger to charge the light, unless you want to do it that way. The downside is that you give up a little bit of waterproofness. It drops the waterproofness down 1 level from IPX8 to IPX7, which means it can take everything except submersion water. So it'll take rain, heavy rain, it'll take splashing, you can wash it, you can do a lot of things with it. Okay, you can't drop it in a lake. Is that a big deal? Yeah, I don't really think so. You know, if you're on a boat with this light and you drop it in a lake, it's going to sink to the bottom of the lake. You're done anyway. You're not getting the flashlight back out of the lake. So I don't really see the submersion as a big, you know, plus for a heavy light that you might drop in a lake. So, you know, I don't know. It's hard for me to come up with some cons of this. It's got, it's well constructed, good grip. You know, it's got the integrated charging if you want it. Yeah, it's a good light. Okay, guys. Thanks for watching.